Welcome to the deep dive. Sometimes the simplest things, the most unassuming creations, they just pack the biggest punch.
That's so true.
And today, we're diving into a real legend,
Ah.
the MXR Distortion Plus pedal. It's just this small mustard yellow box, but honestly, it profoundly shaped the sound of rock, punk, and, well, a whole lot more. Our mission for you today, it's pretty clear. We want to cut through all the noise and just give you the real story, make you genuinely well-informed on this really pivotal piece of guitar gear history.
And that's exactly what this deep dive is all about. We've gathered, historical articles, some pretty deep circuit research, and critical notes on its impact. We're trying to unpack why this specific pedal, with its elegant simplicity, didn't just become a classic.
Right.
But why it's still incredibly relevant and sought after, decades later.
Okay, so let's unpack that origin story then. MXR Innovations.
Yeah.
Founded back in 1972 by Keith Barr and Terry Sherwood out in Rochester, New York.
Yep.
The Distortion Plus itself, it seems like it officially debuted around, 73 or 74?
That's about right, yeah.
Now, what's really remarkable, I think, is just how quickly it became a classic. In a world where there's always new gear topping up, what was it about those early years, and this pedal specifically, that just let it rocket to that kind of iconic status?
Well, what really stands out from the sources is that the Distortion Plus landed almost at the same time as MXR's other really foundational pedals. Things like the Phase 90, the Dynacomp compressor.
The classic.
Exactly. That trio, they immediately set a really high bar, not just for MXR, but, for the whole industry. The Distortion Plus became a classic because it offered something genuinely distinct. It was this powerful, unique distortion, but in a package that was incredibly simple to use and, importantly, pretty affordable for the time. It just filled this crucial gap for guitarists who wanted to push their sound, but didn't necessarily want to fiddle with, a super complex setup.
And speaking of simple, when you actually look at the pedal, the design is almost shockingly minimalist. We're talking two controls. One says output, basically volume. And the other, distortion, that's your game. That is it, two knobs. How did such a, minimalist approach let them get such a distinctive sound, especially compared to more complex stuff we see today?
Well, that simplicity is really its genius, isn't it? At its core, the circuit uses an LM741 IC op amp. You can kind of think of that as the pedal's brain, right? Amplifying and shaping the signal.
Right.
But the real magic, the secret sauce, if you will, comes from its germanium clipping diodes.
Ah, the germanium diodes.
Yeah.
I hear a lot about those.
These tiny little components, originally 1 in 270s, later they used 1 in 34As, they're the key. They shape the sound waves in this very specific, kind of non-symmetrical way.
Non-symmetrical.
Yeah, so imagine you're sculpting a sound wave, right? Most distortions just kind of squash it evenly, top and bottom. But these germanium diodes, they squash it harder on one side. It's called asymmetric clipping. And that's crucial. It gives it that incredibly smooth, but also gritty and dynamic sound that, sources describe as kind of straddling the line between overdrive and distortion.
I see. So it's not just one or the other.
Exactly. It creates this warmer, almost fuzz-like quality when you crank the game, but it also cleans up really nicely if you roll back your guitar's volume knob, almost like a tube amp. And those early ones, just a 9-volt battery, that's it. Shows how stripped down it was meant to be.
Wow. Okay, so beyond the circuit, this little yellow box also has this kind of fascinating visual history, right?
Yeah.
With subtle changes that tell a story. Let's start with the really coveted script logo era, mid-70s. Visually, you'd see that really distinct silkscreen script logo right in the mustard yellow case. And internally, these used components like carbon film resistors, axial lead capacitors, and that LM741 op amp you mentioned.
That's right.
What really set their sound apart for the people hunting them down today was this really smooth distortion, a kind of natural compression, and often a bit less output volume than the later ones. Super collectible now.
Absolutely. And building on that, MXR then shifted into what collectors call the block logo era. That was late 70s into the early 80s.
Right, the block letters. Much bolder look.
Yeah, the visual change was the most obvious thing. Around 77, they switched. Now, the fundamental circuit, it stayed essentially unchanged at first. But, manufacturing happens, things evolve.
Sure, component availability changes.
Exactly. So what's interesting is some of those later block logo models started using metal film resistors instead of the earlier carbon film ones.
Okay, does that make a big difference?
Well, it's subtle, but yeah, Carbon film resistors, they have a slightly more, let's say, organic or random character. Metal film are more precise. And that precision, it subtly altered the sound character. Sources note it made it slightly brighter and tighter.
Interesting.
So while the block logo versions are still definitely collectible, they usually don't command quite the same price as the script logo ones.
Gotcha. Now, sadly, like a lot of these pioneering companies, MXR hit some pretty serious financial trouble in the early 80s. Ended up bankrupt in '84.
Yeah, tough times for many then.
It really seemed like the end for this iconic brand. But, like any true legend, the Distortion Plus wasn't just going to disappear. Its next chapter kicked off when Jim Dunlop bought the MXR brand rights in 1987. What did that Dunlop acquisition mean for the Distortion Plus brick?
Well, Dunlop wasn't just, slapping a name on something. They were bringing it into a modern manufacturing world, which was pretty vital for its survival, actually.
Right, updating things.
Yeah. Their first reissues started showing up in the 90s and then became really widely available again in the 2000s. And these modern ones, they come with some definite improvements. You get improved build quality, PCB-mounted components, which are more robust, sturdier cases.
The all-important power jack.
Oh, yeah, that crucial, reliable DC power jack that, let's face it, guitarists expect now. Plus, they usually have true bypass or buffered bypass, which affects how your signal passes through when the pedal's off.
Right, keeping the core tone intact.
Exactly. But despite all these practical updates, and maybe some tiny circuit revisions, Dunlop's Distortion Plus pedals, they remain remarkably faithful to the original's essence. They really haven't messed with what makes it great.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting for me. This little yellow pedal became the sonic signature for some truly legendary sounds. Most famously, maybe Randy Rhoads with Ozzy Osbourne.
Oh, absolutely.
His classic lead tones on albums like Blizzard of Oz, Diary of a Madman. They prominently featured the MXR Distortion plus wood. It was key to his signature aggressive yet smooth sound. But that's really just scratching the surface, isn't it?
Absolutely. And what's so compelling is just the sheer versatility of this thing. It stretched way beyond just hard rock and metal. I mean, take Jerry Garcia.
From the Grateful Dead, really?
Yeah, he was using the Distortion Plus on stage quite a bit in the mid to late 70s for his, unique psychedelic tones. Then you jump over to someone like Bob Mould from Husker Du.
Huge influence.
Totally. He built his thick, saturated distortion around it. That sound was fundamental to his whole indie punk thing. Or Dave Murray from Iron Maiden used it for his creamy lead sound in their early days.
Oh.
And for prog fans, Steve Howe from Yes used it live in the late 70s, early 80s. And maybe most surprisingly, Thurston Moore from Sonic Youth. He used the Distortion Plus to get some of those abrasive and experimental textures that were just integral to their noise rock style.
That's incredible. From Jerry Garcia to Thurston Moore with the same pedal.
It genuinely shows how broad the appeal of this deceptively simple circuit really is. It works across so many different genres.
And naturally, given that incredible legacy, Dunlop and MXR, they haven't just reissued the original. They put out variations, special editions over the years. We've seen like the Randy Rhoads tribute model.
Yep.
And even those hand-wired or custom shop editions with, super meticulously matched vintage specs for the real purists out there.
Got it. Yeah, and its lasting legacy is just undeniable. That elegantly simple yet effective circuit basically became a blueprint. It influenced countless pedals from other brands. It's actually fascinating how many boutique pedal companies have openly adopted and adapted its core design, adding their own little twists.
Sound like a standard to build on.
Exactly. And it's also become this fundamental learning tool in the whole DIY pedal community, often cited as a fundamental starting point for learning pedal construction and modification.
Yeah.
It's just a real testament to a design that's so effective, people are still studying it and building on it today.
So if you're listening and thinking about grabbing one now, the good news is it's still widely available and affordable, still really popular.
Mm-hmm.
The modern Dunlop version, it's known for being built tough, got those modern features like the standard power input. But of course, those vintage originals, especially the script logo ones, they still fetch premium prices among collectors and aficionados chasing that, truly original mojo.
Which kind of raises an important question, doesn't it? How does such a seemingly simple design keep holding such a vital place in guitar history, especially now with all the complex digital stuff, multi-effects?
Yeah, everything's so advanced now.
But the MXR Distortion Plus, it stands as one of the earliest widely accessible and iconic distortion pedals. Ultimately, I think it's that inherent simplicity, its ability to just enhance rather than totally overwhelm a guitar's natural tone.
Right, it works with the guitar.
Exactly. And that instantly recognizable sound, that character has just allowed it to endure and inspire through decades, touching generations of musicians and even pedal builders.
Well, what does this all really mean for you listening? Well, the MXR Distortion Plus really exemplifies the beauty, the effectiveness of simplicity in design. And not just in music, you're right, but in pretty much any field where innovation tries to solve a problem with elegance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe think about what other simple innovations have had such a lasting, widespread impact. Or, hey, maybe just go cue up some classic Randy Rhoads or Husker Du or Early Maiden and just listen for that little yellow box in action. You might be surprised what you hear.